I've always enjoyed coming up with slightly different techniques of ways that we can actually use to present our pictures, and in this video we're going to be creating a Polaroid film effect. The image itself was taken by Captain Tom Wilkes, and it's under the Flickr Creative Commons license, so thanks very much indeed, Tom. Now this is going to be a little bit of a template to start off with. So we're going to come to the layers panel. We're going to put in a new empty layer by clicking on the create new layer icon. In it goes, layer 1. Next we're going to come across, we're going to click on the rectangular marquee tool. So clicking on the marquee tool, dropping down, just ensure that you've got the rectangular marquee tool. That's the first little button here, and I've also got the new selection. Coming into the image, don't click down just yet because you need to make sure you have got a perfect square. So I'm going to press and hold down shift, so hold down the shift key. Now that you're holding down the shift key, click down, drag it out, and because you're holding down shift you have got the perfect square. We're going to bring it up into this part of the image here, would be pretty good. And with the new selection you can of course move it around, but don't worry, we can come into the image and we can reposition things as we start to work our way through. Now with this we're going to fill this with black, so we're just going to drop down, take a look at your colors here. If you've got any other colors in your toolbox, press D on the keyboard. Pressing D on the keyboard restores the default colors. Black as the foreground, white as the background. We're going to come up, we're going to click on the paint bucket tool. Now with the paint bucket tool we're going to come inside our selection, we're going to click down, which is going to fill this, as we can see, with black. Now the next stage is to come up to our select menu and we're going to drop down to transform selection. Clicking on transform selection has put the transform tool around the outside of our selection. Okay, next stage is to bring all four sides out equally. Now to do that, press Alt or Option, so press and hold down Alt or Option. When you hold down Alt or Option, look at this, all four sides come out equally, which is pretty good. Bringing it out into that area there would be great stuff. Right, releasing the mouse and releasing Alt or Option, I'm going to come to the center because we need to make this just a little bit longer on the bottom part of our image. I think this is where you used to grab hold of the Polaroid film and shake it vigorously for whatever it was minutes until it developed. Clicking on the green tick, it has now applied it. You can see the outside area. Now we're on layer 1. I want to put a new empty layer underneath layer 1. Now to do that, press and hold down Command or Control, hold down Command or Control, clicking on create a new layer, and because you held down Command or Control, it now puts that new layer underneath layer 1. Coming across to the toolbox, I'm going to press X on the keyboard. White is now the foreground color. I've still got the fill tool, so make sure you still got the paint bucket tool. Come inside the selection, clicking on this, and there it is. That has now filled layer 2 with white. If I just switch off layer 1, you can see there it is. Next thing we need to do is to make layer 1 live again, but we just want to use this as a selection. Now to do that, bring your cursor up over the thumbnail, press Command or Control. You'll notice the way that your hand now gets a square on the back of it. Clicking down, and you may have noticed the selection going from the outside to the inside, so we've selected where we have our black area. We can click on layer 1, we can actually delete it. We do not need this anymore, so click on delete layer. That's now asking us, are we sure? And I'm going to click yes, and there it is. Once we've done that, there is our selection on layer 2. Press delete on your keyboard, pressing delete on your keyboard, and there it is. There's our first of our Polaroid film effect, and I'm going to go to select, deselect. Just coming across, I'm going to double click where it says layer 2, and I'm going to call this, I'm simply going to call it frame, so we know exactly what we're working with. Coming across, we're going to pick up the move tool, and I've got the auto selection ticked, so make sure you got the auto selection ticked. It just makes life a little bit easier. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to place this Polaroid film effect. We're going to give sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 effects, something like that. So we need to duplicate this image now about 5 times. So I'm going to come into it. We're going to come to our frame here. I'm going to use it Command J, Control J, sort of once, twice, 3, and 4 times. So there's our 5 frames in total. Come to the bottom frame here. Click on the little eyeball icon. Right, now hold down your mouse. With your mouse held down and on the eyeball icon, the sort of indicates layer visible icon, as you click down, bring your cursor up, you'll notice you can switch off all the other layers as well. So now you can just see this one layer, our top layer here that we're working on. Next thing we need to do is actually copy the background layer. So I'm going to click on the background layer and we're going to come to select all, Command A or Control A. So we've selected the entire picture. We need to do this because the next thing we're going to do is come to Edit and we're going to go to Copy. Now that's copied our selection to Photoshop's clipboard. We're going to come back to the top layer in our layer stack and I'm going to use Command D, Control D to deselect our selection. Coming over to the Wand tool. Now with the Wand tool selected, there it is there in our menu bar. I'm just going to click that down out of the way. We're going to come into our frame. I'm going to click down. There it is. So it's now selected the inside of our Polaroid frame. And we're going to go to Edit and we're going to go to Paste into Selection. Now you may notice from the thumbnail there, it's pasted it inside the selection. Using Command D, oh no, before I do that, just let me show you this. I've got a black arrowhead that just reminded me. You can actually click down, you can move it around so you can reposition things inside there, but I think we'll leave it as it is because that looks just the sort of thing I'm after. And we're going to go to Select, we're going to go to Deselect. Now with the Move tool, if we pick up our Move tool, you can click down, you can move this around. That looks pretty good, just the sort of thing we're after. Okay, switching this layer off. We're going to drop down to our next layer, which is this one here. Switching it back on, making sure we're working on our frame copy 3. With our Move tool, I'm going to move it across into this sort of area here, just so we select the center part of our picture. Now with this, once again, let's come back to our Wand tool. I'm just going to drop that down out of the way. Clicking on the center part, there it is. We now simply need to go to Edit, Paste into Selection. You'll notice there it is there in our thumbnail. We can see it's come through there. Using Command D, Control D, and if I just press down Command or Control, pressing down Command or Control, there it is. We can move this around as well. Okay, we're going to switch this layer off. We're going to come to Frame Copy 2. We're going to switch this one on and we're going to move it across. Now I've got the Wand tool. A quick way of getting to the Move tool is just press down Command or Control. You'll notice the way it changes from the Wand to the Move tool. We can move our framework over. Just coming over to this area here would be pretty good like this. Now with the Wand tool, because I've released that Command or Control, we can click down. There's our selection. Go into Edit and just dropping down to Paste into Selection. Through that goes again. Using Command D, Control D. We're going to switch this one off. Okay, let's switch our next one on, making sure our frame copy is live. Pressing Command or Control, we're going to drop this down into that area there. Would be pretty good. Right, bringing it up, releasing Command or Control, we've got our Wand tool back and come in and go into Edit and Paste into Selection. In that goes Command D, Control D to deselect again. Okay, the final one, you'll be glad to hear. Coming up, clicking on our frame, pressing Command or Control again, so we get our Move tool. We can move this down. I'm going to place that roughly into that area. There would be pretty good. Let's go over like that. Yeah, that'll look good. Right, bringing it up with the Wand tool. In we pop, and we're going to go to Edit. You've guessed it, Paste into Selection. There it is, Command D, Control D. Now, as we did before, we're just going to click on our top layer here, hold down our mouse, make that visible. We're going to come down and we're going to just click on these layers and they all now are visible. Now coming across, we're going to select our Move tool. Just dropping this down. Don't forget we've got the auto selection, so we can now click down and we can start to move these around into an area and as we want to place them on the image. Now with this one here, for example, this frame copy 2, I think it's just hidden behind that line here. Coming to our layers panel, if we click on this, we can lift this up. Lifting it up, you get that black line coming through. That means we can drop it in. That's going to look pretty good like that. Let's lift this up into position, something like this, and clicking on this layer, and you can see the way the auto selection comes in here. Great stuff. Right, coming to our first one. I'm going to click on this layer. You'll notice because of the auto selection, it's jumped right to the top. We're going to come to Image, Transform, Free Transform. Command T, Control T was the shortcut for that. We're just going to give that a little bit of an angle. Clicking on the green tick or just pressing Enter or Return will do the same job. Just clicking on this one. Just bringing it through, moving it into position. Perhaps using Command T, Control T and just bending it in slightly different. Yep, that looks good like that. Right, coming through, clicking on this one. Again, Command T, Control T. and once again just moving it round, just giving it a bit of a twist. Which way should we go? Should we go that way? Yep, that looks good like that. And just double click inside will also apply the transform tool. Clicking on the bottom one here, again Command T, Control T, and we can just sort of move this around, but something in that area like this, and just lifting it up a little touch or two. Double clicking to apply, and clicking on our final one. Again Command T, Control T, just moving that in like this, just dropping it down, just trying to get a rough line here, just using this one as well, moving that in. And there it is. Once we've done that, let's click on our bottom one here, the frame one here, because the next thing I'd like to do with this is just give it a little bit of definition from the background. We're going to go to Layer, we're going to drop down to Layer Styles, Style Settings. Now when this opens, we're going to come down, we're going to click on Drop Shadow. You'll notice there it is there, a drop shadow appeared around the outside. Just taking a look at the image, you can see the way the shadow's coming through in this direction here, so the lighting's coming through, so that angle that we've come in, yeah, that's pretty good. Taking the size, and you can see it just sort of blurs it out. You can see it coming round the edge here. That looks pretty good. The opacity is good with that as well. Distance, yeah, bringing it out just a little bit more. And there's the size. And we're going to click OK. You'll notice that little FX icon has now appeared on frame layer. Now, we don't have to go and reproduce this all again, and something else you might like to try is just double click on it. This time you've now got the move tool, so you can actually move your drop shadow around and you can place it wherever you want. I'm just going to come to this and drop the opacity down a little bit, just move it into position, and there it is. Once you've done that, click OK. Now come across where it says FX. We don't have to redo this on all of these layers, you'll be pleased to hear. Simply come to the FX, now press Alt or Option, click down. When we now lift our cursor up, you'll notice you've got the double arrows. Holding that little FX, you can now drop it onto this layer. Through it's gone. We can now click on this one, we can lift it up, we can place it on our next layer, and taking it to copy 2 and to copy 4, and through it goes. So there's our drop shadows placed on all of the layers. Okay, it looks pretty good, but the background's just a little bit too defined. So we're going to click on our background layer, and we're simply going to go to the adjustment layer, come into the very first one, our solid color, changing it to white. So we're going to go for white, we're going to click OK to that, and come to the opacity. Now just drop the opacity down a touch or two, just so you can see a little glimpse of the background, and that's what we're going to use. Now with all of these, with the move tool selected, and on the auto select, you might want to come in, you might want to reposition some of them, just bringing them through like that, entirely up to you. But there it is. That's using that Polaroid film effect to come in and just to make the presentation of your pictures a little bit different. Go on, give it a try. Until the next time, it's happy imaging, and take care.